work on projects, meet advisors, study for their classes.
Welcome into One-on-One live on Ocean Student Radio, KXUI, and Sunlink Channel 112. We're live from Studio 318 on the beautiful campus of Oklahoma State University. It's Friday, Logan.
It's a good day.
But it's a great day in Stillwater. Kickoff Big 12 play tomorrow.
Yep.
But the news of the day, everyone's hungover in Cleveland. No one showed up to work today because for the first time, let me find it in my notes, wherever it is, for the first time in 635 days, the Cleveland Browns are victorious.
It's about time. Like you said, 635 days. That seems like forever ago. We were in high school whenever they last won a game. So Baker Mayfield did it. I mean, as much as we may or may not like Baker Mayfield on this show, he definitely pulled it out for the Browns. They were down, 14-0 going into the half. And Baker Mayfield on the first drive leads them to a field goal. He never actually threw a touchdown pass, I believe, but I mean, it's Baker time.
See, okay, I agree with you, but it is hard for me to sit here and say good things about Baker Mayfield. It is going to be hard for me to do. It's just the way I am. I go to Oklahoma State. I've always been an Oklahoma State fan, and I really don't like the way Baker Mayfield carries himself, but the guy's a winner. So if he can outrun Cleveland cops, good for him, and he's a winner. But he came in after Tyrod Taylor was 4 of 14 for 19 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, Baker said it last night, credit to him. You don't want to enter a game because a guy gets hurt, but he got in the game, and he's the reason that the Cleveland Browns won a game last night. He ended up 17-23 for 201 yards and caught a touchdown pass. Yeah. Cleveland was not innovative enough to rename the play that they stole, but you're seeing that play all over football. The Cowboys have run it here in Stillwater. Now, here's a question that I want to ask you, because Hugh Jackson, Hugh Jackson.
He is.
He said, we're not going to name a starter until Monday. He gave the team the weekend off. Is it right? Obviously, it's the political move.
Yeah.
If Baker doesn't start next week, they got to fire Hugh Jackson. He's clueless if he doesn't. Would you be okay with naming him the starter after last night?
No, because, well, that's a good question. No, I wouldn't, because it's not fair to Tyrod Taylor, I don't think, and it's honestly not smart. Even if they say it Monday, it's not smart either. They should hold on to that info as long as possible until they play their next game. But, I mean, like you said, if he doesn't name Baker Mayfield the starter for next week, he's out of here. Like, you can't be, what is he now, 2-31-1 and not start the guy that won your first game in almost 2 years.
Yeah, I believe the show we did last year, I said Baker can't play in the NFL. It's a small sample size, but it looks like he does have the intangibles to be a good pro player. Now, my problem is that it is such a small sample size.
Yep.
Look at week 1 with Sam Darnold. People are anointing him the greatest thing ever. The last 2 weeks are not been good. So is it too soon to be this high on Baker Mayfield?
No, because at the end of the day, he brought you to a win. And through two games, they're both in close games, both week 1 and week 2. And obviously week 2 was because of the kicker. That was why they didn't win that game. But I mean, week 1 you kind of got to put a lot of that on Tyrod Taylor. I mean, I think it's Baker time. I know, like you said, it's a small sample size. I understand where you're coming from with that, but he led the Browns to a win. That's a big deal. I think you just got to go with whatever wins if you're Cleveland.
That's true. When you lose that much, you kind of have to. But Carlos Hyde had a big night, 23 carries, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
And a birthday.
And he had a baby last night.
I know. It was an eventful Thursday night.
And listen, I can be as critical. Let's be honest. I don't like Baker Mayfield for where he played college football. It's fair to say. That's why I have a bias against him. That's not going to change. But I give him credit. He was phenomenal at OU. He's much more than just a system quarterback. What Drew Brees said, we had our doubts about that. But he looked.
I didn't. I believe in Drew Brees.
He looked good last night, and he got them a win. So let's see what he does in Cleveland. So credit to the Browns. I mean, they got free beer last night.
Yep.
It was a huge win. They had a possum in the stadium.
Work should be canceled throughout.
They should have a parade. Forget what the Cavs won with LeBron. This is the biggest thing to happen in Cleveland in a long, long time. Listen, okay, here's where I'll break something down for you really quickly.
Okay.
Well, everyone loves LeBron James, right?
Yeah, especially if you're from Cleveland.
If Baker Mayfield even took them to the playoffs, the Cleveland fans would probably respect him more. That's the way football works. When the Royals won a World Series in Kansas City, football is king and always will be. So when football is prominent, look at Dallas. You think people care when the Mavs won a championship? No, they still care about the Cowboys.
I think it's different for Cleveland, though, because LeBron James is from, the Ohio area, especially, if this happened if he led them to the playoffs in, 2012, I would agree. They would love him more than LeBron ever. But LeBron came back and ended that playoff or that championship drought for them. It was I think after the Cubs won, it was the longest drought any city had had. Well, obviously, never mind, Chicago had the Bulls. But anyway, I think since the story of LeBron is different than most sports cities. I agree with what you're saying about Dallas and Kansas City, but I think LeBron's a little different.
Trust me, mark my words. I don't think it'll ever happen because even though they beat the Jets, so that's fair. If they ever got to that point where they did win a Super Bowl, Baker Mayfield would own Cleveland, own it. Trust me. They love football.
I don't know.
They love it. And from where the Browns have been to where they could be, I'm telling you, man, they're putting his poster up on that building. We are all witness to Baker Mayfield.
That would be the ultimate level of disrespect and pettiness by the city of Cleveland if they put Baker Mayfield up there instead of LeBron.
I wouldn't be shocked to see it. I really wouldn't. So let's jump into some college football here. Congratulations to Cleveland. You won a game. Props to you.
That's probably the most we'll talk about the Browns all year. Unless they keep winning, yeah.
We'll see where we get there, but I did have faith in John Dorsey. So he drafted Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield. He knows what he's doing. All right, so let's break down the Big 12 games that get kicked off this weekend, and we will wait next segment, obviously, to talk about Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. Let's start with Akron and Iowa State. Pretty easy win for Iowa State, you would think, but they're 0-2. Akron's 2-0. Who are you taking?
I'm going to take Iowa State. They're at home. They're due for a win.
Were they Cleveland all of a sudden?
Well, Cleveland was due for a win a year ago. I don't think Iowa State's going to go winless.
Hey,
I don't think they're the Browns of college football. That's more Kansas, and look what they're doing.
That was Kansas. Now it's Baylor. I don't know. They're 2-1, but I don't like Baylor. I don't think many people do. Kansas State and West Virginia out in Morgantown. We asked Robert who it gave the advantage to because West Virginia did not play last week because their game was canceled by Hurricane Florence. So who are you giving the edge to and who wins ultimately? West Virginia is 16.5-point favorite.
I'm giving West Virginia the edge because I agreed with Robert. I think that week off, because you kind of got to figure out what you were going to do the first couple weeks, and then you basically get an extra bye week. So I'm giving the edge to West Virginia, and West Virginia is going to go get the dub.
I think you're probably right. I don't think Kansas State really is that good, but Bill Snyder always brings, when everyone has doubts about the Wildcats, that's when they play close. I think it'll be close in the first half, but Will Grier and the Mountaineers pull away eventually in the second half, and it kind of looks like a blowout, but it will be close at first. Now the lovable losers, Kansas and Baylor. They're both 2-1. That's combined 4-2 for those teams. Simple math for you now. I'm breaking it down for you.
My mind.
But that is crazy. Down in Waco, it's a 2:30 kickoff. Probably not a primetime game ever. But Who do you have, the Jayhawks or the Baylor Bears?
I want to say the Jayhawks. I want them to get that three in a row, but I can't pick against Baylor at home because it's still Kansas.
I'm taking Kansas.
Okay.
But are you looking at the game? Do you have the line in the over-under?
7.5 is too big a line. Baylor's favored by 7.5 for those.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Baylor.
And the over-under's 56.
Hey, they're scoring points up
The
at
Kansas
Kansas.
yeah.
Puka Williams is very talented. 32 carries, 283 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I'm taking the Jayhawks in that one. But
All right.
an interesting game down in Austin because Texas didn't really get off to the start they wanted. They struggled with Tulsa, but took care of a depleted USC team last week. Number 17 TCU is coming off a loss to Ohio State where they had the victory right there, and then it slipped right out of their hands. So they're both 2-1. They're both kicking off Big 12 play. I want to ask you the over-under. Don't look.
I already did.
Ah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. TCU or Texas?
TCU. I mean, TCU's favored by 3 anyway, but I think it should be more. I think they're just kind of respecting Texas's home court, or home field, I should say. Yeah, TCU's going to be pissed. They're going to be so mad that they lost that game last week, and they're going to take it out on the Longhorns.
Yeah, I think Texas gets annihilated in this
Yeah.
game. I really don't think it's ever close. I have no faith in Sam Ellinger, excuse me,
I agree.
and I have no faith in Tom Herman. They almost lost to Tulsa.
Yeah.
It took a guy who should be a senior in high school at USC, a quarterback, for them to really get a convincing win. And I don't even know that it was convincing. Clay Helton should be left in Austin. Like, he's not going to have a job at the end of the year, so I really don't chalk that USC win up to anything great.
Yeah.
I think TCU dominates Texas
I
this
agree.
weekend. So, Army and Oklahoma this weekend. Who you got? We got to talk about the Sooners. Who are you
I'm gonna
taking?
take the Sooners. They're at home. They're really good. I know that's not something we like to say, but they're
Talented.
They're really good. Kyler Murray is the real deal.
49-73, 863 yards on the year and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll get to, as we said in the next segment, we will get to Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. Now I have a couple games in the top 25 that I want to talk about. We have to talk about the co-national champions.
Yes, we do.
Logan.
I was hoping you were going to bring this up. I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic, they bounced back.
Yep.
They've won 2 straight after getting
Destroyed.
smoked by OU in week 1. In Orlando, it's a 6 o'clock kickoff. You taking the national champs or are you taking Florida Atlantic?
I'm so glad you're calling them the national champs now. This is such a good turnaround.
It's completely, absolutely in sarcasm.
No.
I mean no respect to you down in Orlando because you don't deserve it.
They do.
No, they don't.
They don't deserve to be ranked 16th. They should be higher. But I'm taking UCF.
Give me Lane Kiffin and the Owls.
That's what
Owls
you said
by
week
90.
1. Okay.
Florida Atlantic is going to take care of these. I don't even know. I can't say it on TV. I mean, UCF's a joke, man. They are an absolute.
That's so disrespectful.
It is. They're disrespectful to the sport of college football.
Do you remember the wager we had?
What was that?
What would last longer, the Browns losing streak or the UCF winning streak? Do you remember what I took?
Oh, they played on Thursday night, so give me the weekend.
I am. I'm going to give you the weekend.
Okay, you can go
I think
to-
you actually have like 20 days.
Yeah.
I think it's like 20 something. Either way, I'm confident UCF. About calling 3 different teams just now.
Well, that's because they're not popular and no one cares about them.
I do.
Can't stand them. 11 a.m. kickoff up in Como, my home state. The Missouri Tigers are taking on Georgia. Is this a time for the Missouri Tigers? They want to be SEC elitists. They try, but real SEC fans from down south, I know we have a couple people from the Atlanta area here that probably know what true SEC stuff's about. True pedigree, and Mizzou doesn't have it, and they never will. The number 2 Bulldogs against the Tigers. Drew Lock's very talented, Logan.
I'm still taking Georgia. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good pick.
yeah, I'm not going to mess this one
Smart.
up. Georgia's favored by 2 touchdowns on a road game.
They played close in Athens last year, though.
Yeah.
Drew Lock, 78 of 113, over 1,000 yards on the year for 11 touchdowns. I think the Tigers keep it close, but eventually Fromm and the Bulldogs pull away. Notre Dame, Michigan and Nebraska. Scott Frost still looking for that win.
My other
We won't
team.
go in depth about these teams. Just give me a win before we have to get our
Michigan.
break out here.
Scott Frost is not. He's going to be 0-3.
I think you're right. He would be 1-3 had he not had week 1 canceled, but
Yeah.
the Storms then. Texas A&M down at the number 1 team in the land, Alabama.
I picked them to beat Clemson, but that didn't happen. I'm not going to pick them to beat Alabama. This is the best Alabama team we've seen in a long time, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they are incredibly talented. Landon said the other day, there's not a ton of big names besides at the quarterback position. I think Alabama, they're 26-point favorites. I
would have to.
Yeah.
I think A&M could cover.
I'm not taking, not in Tuscaloosa, not at night. Give me Nick Saban. All right, our last game here, if I can find it, Mississippi State and Kentucky. And the toughest place to play in the SEC, Kroger Field, as it's called, up in Lexington. The home field advantage for the Wildcats, at least I've been told. Never heard about it until now, but it's what I'm being told from some people over here. Really quickly, Wildcats or Mississippi
I'm taking the Wildcats. I'm supporting Alexis.
That's a shame, Logan. It really is. There's no way that Kentucky beats Mississippi State. They are 9-point favorites, Mississippi State, right now. Give them 21. Okay. Over-under is 55.5. They're going to go over by themselves, the Bulldogs. Kentucky, tough place to play. All right, we have to take a break really quickly, but we want to thank one of our sponsors at the Oklahoma Air National Guard. Contact Oklahoma Air National Guard at 800. Go to ANG or visit their website, goang/OK, for more information about how to get 100% college tuition. We'll be right back on One-on-One. OSU Student Radio, KXUY, Sunlink, Channel 112.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care. It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Being able to extend plays with his feet will be the key to keeping the Sooners offense on the sidelines.
Go. Welcome into One-on-One OSU Student Radio, KXUY, Sunlink Channel 112. As you see from some highlights last Saturday, Logan, is Oklahoma State took care of Boise State.
Yes.
But now it's another big game as they're kicking off Big 12 play against the Red Raiders from Texas Tech. I want to read you some fast facts before we break down the game.
Okay.
The all-time series is tied 21-21-3. OSU's won 9 straight. Last time the Red Raiders beat Oklahoma State, Mike Leach was the head coach. We all know how that ended. Now the head coach at Washington State. That was 2009. They lost 56-20 to the Red Raiders. They have not won in Stillwater since 2001, and they have lost by the average score, I think, is 19.4 points over this losing streak. But the last 2 games, they've lost by a combined 8 points. They were Mike Gundy's first Big 12 win, and he is 11-2 against the Red Raiders. Does any of that change this week? Obviously, some of it's going to change. The numbers will change.
Yeah.
But does Texas Tech end this losing streak?
No. And it's not even going to be close. I said Friday. They are not ready for our defense. Who'd they play last week? Houston?
Yes.
That was awful. We watched
bad
that,
defense.
And you said it looked like everyone was moving in concrete shoes. These guys in Stillwater do not move like that. The way we were moving around the field last week, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I'm not predicting any upset or anything like that.
Well, we do have something to preview the game, so we will play that. For our preview for the Oklahoma State-Texas Tech game, here is Kenzie Lee reporting for O-State TV.
15th-ranked Cowboys take on the Red Raiders at home. Texas Tech hasn't beaten Oklahoma State since 2008. Head coach Cliff Kingsbury and the Raiders went 6-7 last season, while the Cowboys went 10-3, defeating Tech on their home field 41-34. Both teams are coming off big wins last week as Tech's Alan Bowman threw for 605 yards, setting a Big 12 freshman record. The Raiders went on to defeat the Houston Cougars 63-49. Meanwhile, down here at Boone Pickens Stadium, at the time, number 24th ranked Oklahoma State took care of, at the time, number 17th ranked Boise State, as the Cowboys special teams had 2 blocked punts, scoring off each that pushed them to a 44-21 victory over the Broncos, while knocking them out of the top 25. With Oklahoma State showcasing their impressive defense last Saturday, it ought to be an interesting fight against an offensively explosive Raiders team. Who will come out on top? We'll find out tomorrow night. From Ocali TV at Boone Pickens Stadium, I'm Kenzie Lee.
Thank you to Kenzie for reporting for O-State TV. As she talked about those block punts last weekend, do you think special teams will play a pivotal role again this week? Because it's played it in these Texas Tech Oklahoma State games in the past, especially 2 years ago. Do you think it will play a role Saturday or no?
Not as big as it did last week. I don't think we're going to get like 2 block punts big of an impact, but I think early on there's going to be a field goal or an extra point that's going to be important in some way. You know, it's going to change the tide either for like we can make one and it'll change it, or we can block one of theirs, change it that way. You know, something like that, some kind of in that ballpark.
Yeah, I don't think the special team is going to be played. Obviously, if Texas Tech, they run a different protection, as we kind of heard Coach Kingsbury talk about in his press conference on Tuesday. They do different things than Boise State, and obviously they're going to see that tape and know what to prepare for Oklahoma State. But you look at Taylor Cornelius, he's got 971 yards on the year, 65 of 101, and 7 touchdowns. But those 3 interceptions that he had in the first 2 weeks, played pretty clean football last week.
Yeah.
How important, they're not going to let him run as much as they did last week.
No.
Texas Tech's not going to let him run, and Coach Gundy's not going to let him run. What does he have to do on Saturday to keep this streak of beating the Red Raiders alive?
I think he has to choose his runs. I think he has to be particular. He has to be careful about when he wants to get out of the pocket and try to move the sticks with his feet. And, you know, I think it'd be better if we get Justice Hill more involved. I think that takes a lot of pressure off Cornelius as far as running the ball. But I think he just has to play clean football like he did last week. He did a really good job of, you know, not making any too bad throws. And he didn't throw to that one end zone, that corner of the end zone Gundy's always talking about. So I think as long as he plays, you know, relative to what he did last week, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, from Bushland, Texas, not too far away from Lubbock, and did not get an offer, kind of like James Washington. Didn't get an offer from OSU either. He walked on here, but we stole a couple guys from there. Hopefully he does play well Saturday. I now have confidence in Cornelius, but he's going to have to, at some point, he's going to have to let it rip downfield. He's going to have to complete some passes downfield, so we'll see when that comes up.
I agree, and we kind of saw that last week. We saw it once, really, to Tylan Wallace. I think we're going to see that a lot more because the Boise State defense, they've returned, what, 10 guys? Is that right?
Yeah, 10 out of 11 starters.
I don't think this Texas Tech defense is returning 10 guys or even near as good as Boise State. So I think you're going to see a lot more opportunities for the deep ball.
Yeah, the Cowboys have the 6th-ranked total offense in the country, and the Red Raiders have number 2, but number 1 in passing.
Yep.
Those numbers can be skewed because of the opponents that you have in the first 3 weeks.
Right.
So I don't know how legitimate those numbers are, but we have the number 34 total defense in the country after last week. I believe we were number 9 before that. But Texas Tech has the 106th ranked total defense. Now, that is including one game where they shut out Lamar.
Yeah, what was that, 77-0?
77-0.
It's bad if you have a shutout and your defense isn't even a top 100 defense. So, I think you're going to see a lot more airing it out, more of what we're used to seeing these past couple of years.
It's going to be a very interesting game. It seems like, I know the margin of victory is almost 20 points for the Cowboys over this 9 games, but it seems like when Texas Tech and Oklahoma State play, it's always close. It's always a nerve-wracking game, but maybe I'm just have some PTSD from the past 2 years of, what, almost upsetting Cowboys when the Cowboys needed wins there. The offensive line played better last week.
Yep.
They have to do a good job this week. They can't let Taylor Cornelius get disrupted. He kind of was. They had a rough first quarter against Boise State last week. I think that's fair to say. And then they really cleaned some things up. Justice Hill, 277 yards and 4 touchdowns. How big of a game, not just him, but all the backs on Saturday, how big of a game do you think they'll have?
I think they'll have a really big impact because, obviously I think Tech's going to game plan more towards them than the wide receivers, but I still think, when you have guys like Justice Hill, Chuba Hubbard, those guys are going to make plays regardless. I don't think, are we going to see LD Brown, or is he?
I don't think it's come out, but I wouldn't be confident in him playing, or at least playing a big role on Saturday.
Yeah, he tweaked his ankle last week, but yeah, I think the backs are going to be able to have an impact, even if Tech's game plan on defense is to stop those guys.
Yes, and just Tylan Wallace, 319 yards on the year, 2 touchdowns. There's a lot of big receivers that he needs to get into play on Saturday. Yeah. Not just Tylan Wallace, but Tyron Johnson, Dylan Stoner, McCluskey. There's a lot of people out there waiting to catch passes from Taylor Cornelius. So hopefully they spread the ball out. But this, not necessarily the Cowboys offense is what we're talking about. We're going to talk about the Cowboy defense against this ferocious, powerful Texas Tech offense. Alan Bowman's a freshman. He does not look like a freshman. He set the Big 12 passing record in a game last week against Houston, 94 of 133, over almost 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns on the year.
Do you know who had that record before?
Patrick Mahomes.
Your boy Patty Mahomes.
I didn't like him until he got to Kansas City. Now I love him.
Yeah.
And then, Ward got hurt, and Tejon Henry is playing 35 carries, 166 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Antoine Wesley, a very physical receiver. Coach Kingsbury on Tuesday said he doesn't look like a great athlete. He doesn't look like he's fast or physical until he's out there with 23 receptions, 413 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Broke a lot of tackles against Houston, and was a big part of that game. But their defense can't stop anybody.
Yeah. Anybody not named Lamar.
Yeah. There's only 14 worse defenses in college football than Texas Tech, and one of them's got to be Houston.
Yeah.
Because Houston they just look slow defensively. If you watch the highlights of that game, and I hope you do, both defenses, it looked like they were in slow motion. And I don't think that their offenses are that fast.
Yeah. Texas Tech is definitely more of a passing team as far as what our defense has to focus on, I think. Those 6 touchdowns for Henry, a lot of those are on short runs. I think his longest run on the season is close to 20 yards or something like that. I could be wrong, but you gotta step back. You gotta bring the safeties back. You gotta not really worry about the running game because that's not what Texas Tech wants to do. They want Bowman to sling it, and I think you're gonna see it. I think Alan Bowman's gonna spend a lot of time on his back, a lot like Brett Rippon did.
Yeah, if Jim Knowles is sitting there. And he did that to a 4-year starter with an experienced offensive line at Boise State. He's rubbing his hands together and loving that he's got a freshman quarterback. But to Texas Tech's credit, they probably have the best offensive line in the Big 12. They have the most experienced offensive line, so they will protect their quarterback. It's not going to be as easy to get to Alan Bowman as it was Brett Rippon. But if they can get to him and rattle him, the game's over.
Yeah.
He will not be able to. If he can't get rid of the ball and they can stop the run, I know that's simple X's and O's football, but that's really the key to the game when you're playing a freshman. Just disrupt him, and everything else will be affected by that. So I think Jim Knowles is in a pretty good mood right now. But at the end of the day, you still got to go out and play the game. So you think the streak will continue here in Stillwater?
What about you?
I'm nervous, but as you know, I get nervous before every big game.
You're nervous every week, Reed.
Yeah, that's a problem, but I get nervous before every big game. I think ultimately, Oklahoma State has more talent and probably a better coaching staff than Texas Tech, and I think that they will win. I'm excited to see what Jim Knowles does in his first Big 12 game because he can stop Boise State, stop a 4-year starter, and all that good stuff. But coming from Duke, this is a new game.
Yeah.
Texas Tech has never had a defense, but they've always been able to put up points.
Yeah. And I kind of want to ask you about that. Are you expecting him to play more conservative? Because, last week we saw a bunch of guys subbing in and out, that kind of stuff. Is it going to be more, these are my guys?
They are going to be super aggressive on Saturday. Jim Knowles is going to try to end this freshman, in the first quarter.
Do you think that could kind of lead to us being down early on, you say? Like they get a couple big plays?
Yeah, they could get burnt. They're smart. They're going to – that's what this 4-2-5 that we always talk about. It's big risk or high risk, high reward. They're going to get burned. They got burned a couple times on Saturday at Boise State. So the offense has to step up. Taylor Cornelius has to play clean football. Justice Hill has to have the big game, and they need a receiver besides Tylan Wallace to step up. If they can do those simple things, limit their mistakes, and I'm going to say this every week, just don't create turnovers, and if they keep getting that pressure on the quarterback like they have been, they're going to be a really, really good football team. They're not there yet, but they're well on their way, and they are a lot better than I thought they would be. So give them credit. They have a ton of talent, and we know what Mike Gundy's capable of. But I am happy with what this team's done 3 weeks in, but it's another big test when you start Big 12 play.
Let me ask you this. Do you trust Cornelius enough right now after last week to play that clean football in a Big 12 game?
Yes. He didn't turn the ball over against 10 out of 11 returning starters. Very experienced secondary. He just didn't. So, for me, I would say that I'm fairly confident in Taylor Cornelius' ability.
I think everyone, except for Landon, really has kind of turned the table on
Well,
Cornelius.
he's not Mason Rudolph. He's not going to go out and throw the ball deep and be electric and win you a game. He's just not going to lose you a game, and that's all they need right now. He's the perfect guy for the job with what they're trying to do right now. So I'm happy with it, but that can change week to week, Logan, very quickly. But we do have to take another quick break. Be out at Boone Pickens at 6 o'clock tomorrow because it is Big 12 play. Doesn't look like it's going to be raining at this time tomorrow, Logan.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully it is for us. So we will take a quick break, but we do want to thank another one of our sponsors at OSU Communications. Not sure where to park? OSU Communications has got you covered with parking tips and bus schedule information. We'll be right back on OSU Student Radio KXUY, Sunlink Channel 112.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Just sorry I didn't recognize it, and I just, hope that out of this, we'll be better. The pain that people went through, the pain that people shared with me as this happened, the tears that I saw, it hurt. And the way I felt was nothing compared to the way they felt.
Welcome back to One on One on OSU Student Radio KXUY, Sunlink Channel 112 live on Facebook and YouTube as well. As we saw right there, we have plenty of NBA stuff to get into, Logan, but we'll start with the negative news. Mark Cuban. Do you buy that he is truly remorseful?
I buy that he is wanting to change the culture of the Mavericks and that he truly is sorry for what happened, but I don't buy that he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, that's a lie.
He has said himself he's the most hands-on owner in all of the NBA, but he just missed that. That went over his head somehow. I don't buy that. For those that don't know, last spring sometime, Sports Illustrated issued a article really taking down the Mavericks culture in the front office, which was just horrible if you read the article. Former team CEO and president Terdemi Usuri, I think is how you pronounce his name, he did atrocious things. There was just a terrible culture. There were multiple incidents involving too much graphic stuff for TV. But I think Mark Cuban is taking the right steps. I think he did a good job going on the jump. Urban Meyer could learn a thing or two from him on, how to at least seem apologetic in an interview. He was fined, I think, $10 million. Not fined. He agreed to donate $10 million to charities to aid women in the workplace and empowering women in the workplace and sexual assault in the workplace. But it's not enough. That was not enough of a punishment by the NBA. They could have suspended him. Legally, they can only fine him $2.5 million. So they kind of agreed for him to do this $10 million deal. But he should not be allowed to be at any Mavericks games until December. He should not be allowed to be at the team facilities until 2019. He should not be allowed in there until January 1st, 2019. Because this was atrocious. It went on for too long, multiple years. And it's a shame that it happened. I'm glad he's trying to fix it. But the NBA did not do enough, which is kind of the first time I'm really saying that about the NBA. I thought they were ahead of the curve on like the Donald Sterling stuff and stuff like that, but I feel like they dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, as you said, donating the $10 million to women's organizations. Urban Meyer, let's see who else. Mark Cuban, Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
We're on to you. We know that when you are so powerful and you're involved in every little thing and you're such a great person, a great owner, a great coach, and then you come out and say, I didn't know that was going on. It's a lie. We're on to you, and you've lost all respect. Mark Cuban, to be honest, didn't have much of my respect to begin with, but no respect now because he absolutely knew. When you look at the investigation they did, interviewing hundreds of employees, looking over thousands of texts, that is an overwhelming amount of evidence. And Mark Cuban, I don't think you should be able to take ownership away from him, but you're right. $10 million, $100 million, I don't care. He needs to serve some sort of suspension or have something taking away from him outside of something monetary.
I agree, because, I mean, there's not an easy number that's not outrageous to find Mark Cuban before it really hits him financially. But he loves this basketball team. He was the crazy guy when he first bought it. He was getting fines for being too crazy in the stands. He says he's the most hands-on guy. That's where you can take something away that would hurt him.
Yeah.
To show him that this was serious and that he did something wrong. Don't let him be there. And I mean, I just don't think they did enough on this one.
It's an unfortunate situation. I agree with you. They didn't do enough. But some lighter news. Jimmy Butler wants out of Minnesota.
That's not lighter news for Chris Notch. He's not here today.
No, that is.
Actually, he's probably happy.
Yeah.
I think he's tired of the Jimmy Butler saga.
Break down this stuff with me in Minnesota because you're my basketball expert. I know that Jimmy Butler's had problems with everyone along the way.
Yep.
Why does he want out of Minnesota?
From everything I've read, everything I've heard from people that know more about the NBA than I do, he doesn't like Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns, really. He has a problem with Andrew Wiggins' work ethic, his heart, his love for the game, and I think I heard he thinks Karl Anthony Towns cares too much about numbers. But Jimmy Butler's, like you said, he's had problems with teammates everywhere. I think this was a good experiment, but on paper it looks great. In reality, people don't mesh well all the time. They gave up a lot for him. They got 55 games out of Jimmy Butler last season before he went down with the knee injury and then came back probably prematurely to his own detriment. But they gave up Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, and Lauri Markkanen, and those guys kind of seem to be what the Bulls are building around, those kind of three guys, especially Lauri Markkanen. But this does not look good. It kind of paints the picture of chaos that is the Minnesota Timberwolves, as they have been since 2007 or 8, whenever they lost Kevin Garnett.
Very, very dysfunctional.
Yeah.
They are up in Minnesota.
And, today they're even saying, people are calling them, asking about Jimmy Butler trades, and they're like, nah, we're not trading him. Like, he's already come out and said he's not going to re-sign with you. And to not even field trade calls, because you can get something. And I think they've kind of backtracked on that, and they've kind of come out and said, we'll take calls, but yeah.
All right, so let's assume that they're starting to take calls.
Okay.
Where is Jimmy Butler at this time in 2 months?
Minnesota. I don't think a trade gets worked out that quickly. I just don't, especially if he won't commit to an extension. And like the Knicks have come out and said we're not going to trade assets for a guy we can get in free agency.
Yeah.
That was on his list.
Leave it up to the Knicks to do something stupid.
Yeah.
Shocker.
The Clippers, I don't think they have the assets the Timberwolves want. They don't have a ton of draft picks. I don't see them making a trade with them. That's another one on the list. And the Nets, I don't think the Nets are going to make another trade like they did in 2000, whatever that was, whenever they traded for Paul Pierce.
2012, I think.
I think so, when they just gave away everything. They're just now getting their picks back. They're not going to trade that away for a couple months of Jimmy Butler maybe like the Timberwolves did this year. I really can't pin him down anywhere exactly right now. Obviously, we'll hear more and more as time goes on who's in, who's not in on this Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. But if I'm the Knicks or even the Clippers, I put together what I can. Because you saw this with Paul George. Paul George said he wanted to go to L.A. He wasn't going to sign anywhere else. He gets dealt to Oklahoma City. He falls in love with the city. I'm not saying Jimmy Butler's going to do that with wherever he goes, but he's in OKC right now. He didn't even meet with the Lakers, who he was for sure going to sign with 2 years ago. So, I mean, you gotta strike while the iron's hot with guys like this. I mean, we might see it with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard said he wanted to go to L.A. all last season. He might end up in Toronto. I'm not going to say he is because I have no idea what he's thinking, but I wouldn't be surprised because guys don't like to play for 3 teams in 3 years. Or in Jimmy Butler's case, it would be 4 teams in 4 years. You know what I mean? It's hard to find consistency like that.
So if you look at the teams that he wants to go to, the Knicks and the Clippers and what was the other team?
The Nets.
No, they all suck.
The Nets, Knicks.
They all have one thing in common. They all suck.
They do.
Why in the world would he want to go to the second team in New York, the first team in New York?
Yeah.
They are just awful. They have been for 25 years, and they have the worst ownership in professional sports.
Yeah.
Or the Clippers, who no one even thinks about in L.A., especially now that LeBron's there.
Yeah.
Why those 3 teams?
The Knicks one, we've heard about this for a long time, but Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler are reportedly wanting to team up and play with the New York Knicks. So that's why I think the Knicks are on the list. The Nets, I can't figure that one out. Like, who does he want to play with on that team? D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, no. I wouldn't want to play with any of those guys.
No.
But in the Clippers, I can kind of get that. Maybe he has a relationship with the owner who kind of seems like he's more on top of it than the previous owner of the Clippers was. But I can't, like I said, I can't really pin down why he'd want to go to any of those teams.
I think the Clippers should pack up and go back to Seattle.
They could go to Seattle. They could go to Vegas. There's a lot. They don't belong in LA. LA does not need 2 basketball teams, especially when one's the Lakers.
Yeah, you don't need another one there, especially now that LeBron's obviously won't be there forever. But that leads us to another lovable loser. Not so much anymore, but they've been bad for a long time.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia 76ers hired Elton Brand as their general manager. Logan, he's 39.
Yep.
He has been the general manager of their
G League,
not D League anymore, their G League team for 1 year. He retired 2 years ago.
Yep.
What the heck?
I think it's because he's a former player, honestly. Like, he obviously doesn't have the business experience, but he has the NBA experience, he can connect with guys that are in the league. And I think, a lot of guys are consultants or stuff like that. Jerry West, a player that turned out to be a great GM. I'm not saying Elton Brand's going to be the next Jerry West, but
that's a stretch if you were to say that.
I'm not going to say that.
Okay. I get you.
I'm not Skip Bayless out here, man. But anyway, I think they brought him in to kind of bring in, when they bring in a guy in free agency, they have a player to talk to as the general manager. And I think a lot of NBA guys find that somewhat comforting, someone that knows the business, knows how it works. And, I mean, they obviously trust him enough. They started him out in the G League, and I think the plan was to, kind of build him up through that G League team, let him be the GM of that for a couple of years, then bring him in some other role with the 76ers. But that process kind of got accelerated when their former GM's wife went off on Twitter, trashing the team, which was probably was that the craziest story of the summer for all sports?
I'm sure we could find something that's more crazier, especially on a local level. But as far as professional sports goes, that was just pretty insane.
That was just so far out there. Like, I think the Sixers still really don't know what they're doing. They're trying. They could have hired Elton Brand a week after, they fired Hinkie.
They waited way too long.
They did. They missed out on the draft. They missed out on free agency. They had their coach running both for a while, which is a bad idea. You see that with Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota right now, as we were talking about earlier.
Hiring Thibodeau for anything at this point is a bad idea.
I agree. Especially, the GM coach thing baffles me. Doc Rivers got his job taken away. He's just the coach now. Stan Van Gundy got fired. Tom Thibodeau should have his GM duties stripped of him. But anyway, that's just a bad idea in all of the NBA. Anyway, back to Elton Brand. I don't really know. I don't think this is a good move. I don't think this is a permanent move, I should say. He might be the interim. Instead of Brett Brown, he can just focus on coaching, and Elton Brand takes phone calls throughout the season.
So how many years will he be the general manager in Philadelphia?
I give him at least 2.
2 years, that's not a long time.
No, but they could give him an extension at any moment, If he has a good 2 years, he has like solid drafts and maybe makes a good trade, and that's all they need. They could give him an extension, but I think they're just waiting for one of these other guys on one of the other top GMs to kind of want to move on. Their contract may be ending soon. I think that's kind of their plan.
All right, we just have a couple minutes left here. Magic Johnson came out and said that Lonzo Ball is set for a breakout season after tweaking his shot.
Yeah.
Okay, Magic. Okay. I don't think you can tweak that shot. Tweak it all you want. Not a breakout season.
He's definitely not ever going to be Steph Curry as far as shooting the ball. But I think playing with LeBron, you can have a breakout year. I think all these guys are kind of set up for a breakout year.
I don't think that Lonzo's in L.A. for much longer. I really don't.
I think that depends on LeVar.
LeVar Ball cannot keep his mouth shut. He has not been able to keep it shut since LeBron signed.
Yeah.
I think LeBron's going to get in there and give him a couple more chances, and he's inevitably going to blow him, and it's over. And he will be sent to somewhere, probably the Nets.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe Jimmy Butler will play with him.
Maybe. So you don't think he'll have a breakout season?
I do. I think he's set up for a breakout year. Just because he's playing with LeBron. LeBron makes everyone look better.
He can't make him look much worse. We do have to take our last break, but we do want to thank a couple of our sponsors at Oklahoma Christian University. Get your master's degree in accounting, business administration, theology, engineering, computer science, or cybersecurity from Oklahoma Christian University. Apply at oc.edu/grad. And Unitarian Universalist Church. If you are looking for a church home, visit Unitarian Universalist Church of Stillwater, located at 320 South Stollard Street. They offer an alternative spiritual path and welcome all races, religions, and beliefs. LGBTQ friendly services at every Sunday at 10:30. We'll be right back on Ocean Student Radio, KXCY, Sunlink Channel 112. You've been watching One on One. All right, welcome into One on One on OSU Student Radio KXCY, Sunlink Channel 112, live on Facebook and YouTube as well. It's time for our NFL football segment, Let's jump into some fantasy football stuff. Logan, All right, quarterbacks. Who are you starting?
Hold on, give me just a second. I lost my notes. Reed, you threw me off. I wasn't ready for that.
Well,
who are you starting? You go first.
Okay. Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I came out. I had to issue a public apology on Monday. I had to, he surprised me again. Last week he had 30 points, and this week he's projected 20 points, but he is playing the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night. Start Ryan Fitzpatrick because the Steelers suck.
On defense, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe on offense this
Well,
week.
they're just dysfunctional. Hot take, are the Cleveland Browns less dysfunctional than the Pittsburgh Steelers at the current moment?
Yes.
Whew, the legendary yellow and black. You have so many problems right now. You are down in your division to the Cleveland Browns.
That is a long fall.
All right, and I also want to start Patrick Mahomes because of what he did in Pittsburgh last week. He's playing San Francisco. Is he going to have that good of a game? I don't think so, but he's going to put up a lot of points again this Sunday.
Yeah, I'm starting Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to have a big game. San Francisco is not elite on the defensive side of the ball, and Kirk Cousins. What's our theme this year for fantasy?
If you're playing the Bills, start them. Start all of them.
Yep, and that's the logic I have with Kirk Cousins right there. He had a good game in Green Bay this last week, so I mean, I definitely think the Bills are in. They should all retire at halftime.
Start the water boy. The Bills are awful. That's not a hot take. That's the truth, Logan.
Yeah.
All right. So at running back, you talked about Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Okay. So let's start at running back. I want to start Todd Gurley because I think that once this offense gets going, he always gets his points, it seems like, in the second half of the game.
Yeah.
The Chargers, Joey Bosa is not playing. It doesn't sound like. I expect a big game from Todd Gurley, especially on the ground, maybe some touchdowns through the air as well for Todd Gurley and Kareem Hunt. Because, like I said, with Tyreek Hill, I said to start Travis Kelce last week because they're going to start getting more guys involved. Kareem Hunt hasn't had a big game yet. Watch for a lot of big game on the ground for the Chiefs on Sunday.
Okay, Alvin Kamara, he had a good game last week, obviously, but he's one of the top backs. It's like just plain simple. And I don't trust Atlanta's front. I think after, they did a good job, I think, against Carolina, but I just don't trust them. I think ESPN has them ranked the 25th defense against the run. So, Alvin Kamara, easy, lemon squeezy.
I don't trust anything about Atlanta.
I mean, you don't think they've kind of figured it out at all?
They can't figure out to throw to one of the most elite wide receivers in the league in the red zone.
In the red, yes. But, I mean, they can score now at least. They get in the end zone. It may not be to Julio Jones, but they get in there.
Let them get up by 25. They'll blow the game.
Well, maybe. James White, they're playing Detroit. ESPN has them ranked 31st in defense as far as giving up running backs points goes. And he hasn't really had like a breakout game. He's at 11 points week 1, 8.4 week 2. I think this is a chance for him to kind of establish himself as one of the better fantasy backs this season. You want to jump into your receivers?
Yes, start Tyreek Hill. Just kidding. I'm not stealing your pick. I want to start Adam Thielen because why Logan? Because he's playing the Buffalo Bills.
He's playing the Bills.
He's projected 10.1 points. I think he's going to have a lot more than that on Sunday because everyone's getting points.
Yeah.
Everyone. Vikings by 90 because the Bills are just that bad. They had somebody quit at halftime, Logan. They are that bad. And Deshaun Jackson because he's playing the Steelers as well. He's only projected 7 points. He had a big week last week, scored on the first play from scrimmage. I think Deshaun Jackson has another big game. Maybe not as big as last week, but it'll probably get you 15 or 16 points.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Fitzmagic's out there doing Fitzmagic stuff, Deshaun Jackson's going to be good to go. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he's playing the 49ers. He's Patrick Mahomes. I think he's Patrick Mahomes' best friend. I mean, this dude, how many touchdowns does he have week 1?
Tyreek Hill?
Yeah. Do you have 2?
Yeah, 4, 3, I believe, and 1 punt return.
Yeah, and he had a touchdown last week. I think he could lead the league in touchdowns this season, as far as that goes. I mean,
I don't think you're crazy for thinking that.
Especially if this keeps happening, Tyreek Hill's in for a good season overall. And then D.D. Westbrook, kind of a sleeper for me. I think he's going to establish himself as the Jags' #1 receiver throughout the year. He's on my team. That's why I think he's going to be so good. But they're going to Tennessee. Tennessee gives up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. Let's see what they did last week. Last week they gave up 38.8 points to wide receivers, and they gave up 38.8 points in week 1 to wide receivers. And I think D.D. Westbrook's going to get himself at least one touchdown this week. That's why I'm going with D.D.
All right, now for my starting tight ends. Travis Kelce. They just spread the wealth. He's only projected 8.8 points. I think he goes above that, has around 15 or 16. He's going to have a good game. Him and Kareem Hunt are going to be the stars in Sunday in Kansas City. And Kyle Rudolph, why, Logan?
Because he plays the Bills.
Because he's playing the Buffalo Bills. Projected 6.3 points. Everyone's getting points in Minnesota on Sunday. Start every Viking.
You know, I'm taking Kyle Rudolph from you. Same reasoning. Can't
Real
really
original,
say much
Logan.
Else. I know. I can't really say much else. But O.J. Howard's my other one. Fitzmagic is going to get the ball to his tight end this week. Pittsburgh, like we've said, is kind of, you know, I said they were more dysfunctional than the Browns right now, and I stand by that. So
a solid take.
Yeah. O.J. Howard's projected to get 5.6 points. I think he's going to blow that out of the water. All right, Reed. Who are you sitting at quarterback?
At quarterback, Marcus Mariota, because he might not even play. He's questionable, but if he does play, it is not going to be pretty. Marcus Mariota. He's projected 14 points right now. Not going to happen. And Phillip Rivers, because he's playing that Rams defense. Now, here's my theory. He's got Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters on that Rams defense now. They've played in the AFC West. They know Phillip Rivers. They have a good feel for Phillip Rivers. So he's going to have 3 interceptions on Sunday. He's projected 14.9. Set Phillip Rivers.
I agree with you. Set Phillip Rivers. The Rams are just too nasty on defense. They are too good. And Joe Flacco.
Who is elite.
He might be.
Got Super Bowl ring.
He's playing my Broncos. And that defense actually might be elite this year. They started off good last year, but anyway. Joe Flacco he's in for a rough time. He's kind of gotten lucky these first couple weeks. He had 21 points week 1, 17 week 2. He's projected to get 13 this week. That I would even say less than 13.
I think you're probably right. And at running back, I want to sit LaShawn McCoy. He's projected 8, way less than that because he's not healthy either with a rib injury. And David Johnson because, good Lord, the Cardinals can't score any points at all.
Yeah.
He's projected 15.4. Set David Johnson.
I agree. Sit David Johnson and Tevin Coleman. I don't think Tevin Coleman's going to have that good of a game. He's kind of, he's had a decent season as far as fantasy goes for him, but I don't like him against New Orleans. New Orleans has done a good job not giving up a lot of fantasy points to running backs, so there you go on that.
All right, set Larry Fitzgerald. He, like I said, for the Arizona, they just can't score points, especially Sam Bradford plays. I would set him and set Mike Williams because of that secondary for Los Angeles.
Sit Keenan Allen. I know he's Keenan Allen, but the Rams defense is scary to me. And A.J. Green, I just don't trust Andy Dalton. And I didn't think A.J. Green was going to have that good of a fantasy season anyway. So sit A.J. Green this week.
Set Antonio Gates because he did not play at all last week.
That's a good
He's projected
call.
3.3 points this week. He's just too old. It's over for Antonio Gates. And Eric Ebron, he's projected 4.6. Not going to have a good week this week.
Yeah.
So set him.
Sit Austin Hooper. Again, New Orleans is good, not giving up fantasy points to the tight end. And Austin Seferius-Jenkins, I just have a feeling, not going to be a good game.
All right, we have less than a minute here. I'm going to ask you games. You tell me who's going to win. New Orleans at Atlanta.
New Orleans.
I agree. 49ers.
I'm in Atlanta. I lied.
49ers in Kansas City.
Kansas City. Go Chiefs.
Taking the 49ers.
Who would have
keep
thought
my
I
win
was the
streak
best
alive.
Chiefs fan?
Bills at Vikings.
Minnesota. That's not
agree.
Even.
Broncos at Ravens.
Broncos.
I guess I'll take Denver. I changed my mind on that. Chargers at Rams.
The Rams.
The Rams.
The
and
best.
Green Bay at Redskins.
Green Bay. Washington couldn't even score last week.
Well, hey, we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you so much for watching One-on-One. Logan Mosier. I'm Reed Spencer. Thank you so much. We will be back on Monday at 2:30. Thank you to our sponsors. Get out to Boone Pickens tomorrow at 6 o'clock for the start of Big 12 play. You've been watching One-on-One on Ocean Student Radio KXUY, Sunlink Channel 112.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect,
Achieve, succeed.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.